Hey guys, I am Ibigandscary. I'm bringing you another StarCraft 2 replay, this time featuring CG Fatal in the bottom left corner and Quanta Cock in the top right corner. Not going to pay much attention to the Zerg because this is all about Terran. This is a build that I was asked to review by StimmedProbe on Reddit. He wanted me to go over the build which he designed, and it's actually really good. It features a two-port Banshee harass leading into a death push by the Thors and some Hellions and some Marines and some SCVs. It's very cool and very clean. It's a very nice build that takes advantage of some of the harassment that Terran can do while building for an all-powerful push. It follows a very explicit build order leading up to like 32 supply. So you have to very carefully manage your time. The first thing that you build is on 10. You go for that supply depot. 12 is the barracks that completes the wall off, and then you go for the orbital command plus a Marine. You want to prioritize SCV production over the Marines, so once that first one comes out, you hold there until you can get more supply up. You don't want to find yourself cutting SCVs for the sake of Marines, because that would just be foolish. There goes the 12 barracks. Orbital command is next, and then the first Marine coming out of that barracks. There'll be another command center at your natural, because this will be a 1 racks fast expand. Scouting is coming on for Quanta Cock, but at this time all he'll see is that 1 racks fast expand, which is, it's a pretty classic opener. Nothing to panic about or anything like that. Once the scout does pass though, you'll see that CG Fatal immediately throws down 2 gas. He doesn't want Quanta Cock to see that gas right away. It's important not to have your opponent realize that you're going for something very gas heavy. So there goes the scout. As soon as the drone leaves, you'll see the pro position himself and follow him out. Probably going to see the command center come down shortly. But we are approaching that 17 supply for the 2 geysers. There goes the SCV for the command center. This probe's trying to get in the way. Unfortunately, he doesn't succeed. Scout coming out for CG Fatal, just making sure that if there is a super early pool, he'll be prepared for that. Also, there is a pool coming down, but it's only at 18 supply. It probably was thrown down into 15 pool, just like the early hatch. We can also see that Quanta Cock is grabbing another hatchery for himself. So it'll be a 3 expand. We'll keep an eye on that SCV, see if he notices the third. It is important to realize what exactly the amount of bases your opponent's getting. If he doesn't grab that third, then you'll need to slightly change into a more defensive posture to hold that early aggression that's coming out. Both gas are finished now that we're at the 17 supply, up to 19 now. Supply depot finishes off that wall. There will be a bunker depending on how you scout. The scouting is done in the main base. He sees that the pool is up and that there are 6 Zerglings on the way. That's a pretty standard number, not a super early amount of Zerglings coming in. If this SCV had met a wall of Zerglings coming in, then he would be panicking. He was trying to get that SCV back in to see if there was some early gas or anything like that. I don't think he got deep enough to double check, but we can see that there is none. Factory is the next important aspect of this build. You want to get a single factory out so you can get those double starports, but also to get a Hellion out. The Hellion is incredibly important because it allows you to have some late scouting without expending the energy for a scan from your orbital. You really want to use all of your energy on mules. You don't want to rely on the scanning from an orbital because that costs you way too many minerals. Once that factory is done, we will see 2 starports coming out at about the 26 supply mark. Fatal is rather explicit about the positioning of his starports. He really wants them to be split up so that a single suicidal overlord doesn't scout both of them. If you see 2 starports, you know exactly what your opponent's doing. If you see just one, you don't really know. Right now it's a 1-1-1 with a 1 factory, 1 barracks, and 1 starport. But if he sees both starports coming down, then he'll know about the early cheese from the Banshees. There's no add-ons on either of the structures that could make add-ons. So even though this overlord is coming in to see the factory, he doesn't see a reactor on it. He doesn't know if it's going to be reactor Hellions. He doesn't see a tech lab on it. Doesn't think about a starport off in the wings, and that overlord turns around without noticing those starports. Once those starports get finished, and I wasn't really focusing on the flirting done by the Zerglings at the front because it's not really important. Anybody at this level should be able to handle it. What is important is that this Hellion is going to come out and immediately head for the third. double check that that expansion did go down, and also to see what he can do at the front. It's just a single Hellion. He's not expecting to get a bunch of drone kills. He's expecting to see gas if it's gone down, and also what type of unit composition is coming out to push back that push. It was just Zerglings at the time, no early roaches. 2 tech labs have gone down, one on each starport, one of them researching Cloak, and the other one is immediately beginning production on the Banshees. Once those 2 Banshees come out, they'll hang around for a little bit. You really want to get 3 or 4 out before you start poking at the front door. At least that's what Fatal is doing. The next thing to make besides the Hellion is to throw a reactor down on the barracks that will be coming out shortly. But again, your absolute priority is units that can kill. The Banshees are your first priority. The Hellion is your second. As long as you have the gas, you can start production on the tech labs and the reactor and start to get those Thors out. But Banshees are your absolutely #1 priority, because that's going to be where a lot of the damage is being done early in the game, and it's very important to get those units out so that you can do the aggression that this build relies upon. So the barracks got its reactor, 2 gas coming down in the expansion. According to the build, it's just the 3rd gas, but it looks like Fatal changed it up a little bit to get that 4th up, so he can kind of double down on the upgrades. You can see he's stockpiling a little bit of gas, is a little bit behind on money. He mentions this in his build. If it's the opposite way, if you've got more money than you have gas, you can change up Thor production for Hellion production. Just get a couple Hellions out in addition to your Thors just to supplement the army. You really don't want idle factories or an idle starport. You can have idle barracks. Once you do have an excess amount of money, though, you can throw down to the command center, get up an orbital to get out that extra money. You also see that Terran vehicle planing is coming up, and at the 10-minute mark, these Hellions are on the front door, and all they have to deal with are queens. Hawk reacts pretty instantly, throwing down 3 spore crawlers down at the 3rd. Fatal is rather explicit about where his aggression does come into play. He wants to focus all the aggression down on the 3rd base, not only to deny gas, but also because the 3rd base is one of the most undefended ones. Usually all the queens, all the macro hatches are up in the main base, and it's just where more of the defense is. And so if you can deny gas, take down the hatchery, pick out some evo chambers that are on the outlining outskirts of the base, that's where the majority of the damage can come for the least amount of risk, because it's very important that you keep all of these Banshees up. Check out the production tab. You already have Thors on the way. The vehicle planing is almost done. At the same time, if you look down at the mini-map, you've got a lot of Zerglings poking at the front door. They're going to get pushed away by a Thor positioned by the wall off, but they'll be morphing into Banelings, and you'll have to see what type of microing mechanics, kind of multitasking, is necessary for this build. He's really paying attention to the health of the Banshees, because it's imperative that they survive. One of them does go down, but that's only one for, I think he took down 3 spines, 2 queens, and a spore already. Very successful harassment. Didn't do much economic damage, but he did do quite a lot of damage to the infrastructure, and he's also scared Quanticott into getting a spire up, where the build he was going at the time, it appeared to be an infestor lean build. He has some banelings coming on, but with the spire, that's where the majority of his gas is being spent, even throwing down a roach warren just to expend some of that extra money. With Fatal having 3 Thors up and having done quite a lot of damage already with his Banshees, he's decided to pull back his Banshees, get them repaired, because again, the longevity of the Banshees is really what you want to focus on. And then with this unit composition, and just this unit composition, he's going to push out with, he said 20 to 40 is the ideal number for SCVs, but we can see it's only about 1.5 pages, which is a little bit less than the maximum. And then he's got a significant amount less of Marines, but again, that's because he was kind of running low on minerals. He does have quite a lot of Banshees, which is where the majority of the damage is going to be done, and then the Thors are kind of in the outskirts, waiting to deal with anything that's going to be scrambled from Quanticott. Very key to realize that the build does not rely on any of these ground units that I'm selecting right now to survive. Marines are going to go down, SCVs are going to go down, they're replaceable, and you can afford to lose all of them. What you can't afford to lose are the majority of your Banshees or your Thors. So definitely pay very close attention to the big units, and don't worry about the little units, those are losses that you can afford to take. This third is definitely going to go down, and at this point the damage done by this push is kind of paid for itself already. Yeah, there was a lot of SCVs going down, but that's why you guys bought that orbital command, that third CC, and didn't try to take an expansion with it. You can re-macro all those units out. And you can also see that there's a steady stream of units coming back in, reinforcing the SCVs, reinforcing the Marines, so that you can heal up the mechanical units. These Banshees are taking a lot of damage, and pulling back just for a couple of seconds where you get the repair will really make this a lot more cost effective. The third has already gone down. Fatal's going to reposition and push up into the second. And Quantic Hawk is really only capable of producing a couple of roaches, and not many flying units. He got the Spire up so that he could get some Corruptors to deal with the Banshee harass, but unfortunately the Thors have forced him to think about the ground play also, and he's really not capable of splitting up his forces into a even match for both the air and ground play. With this number of Banshees, spores are not as big an issue. You can focus down pretty much anything. The Corruptors, if in a significant enough number, can take down the Banshees completely, and then the Thors are left undefended. But the Thors, just against roaches, more than a match, taking them down, especially whenever they're protected by the Banshees. And then the small number of Corruptors, in this case, go down very quickly to the anti-air afforded by the Thors. So you can just see how, even though there are no ground units left, just a handful of Marines, no SCVs repairing this, this is still a very strong unit composition. The upgrades were just the one vehicle plating, and the majority of the damage was done by the Banshees, not only at the start doing their harassment, but also supplementing the Thors with their enormous DPS. You kind of have a lot of expendable units in the sense that even if they die, the majority of the damage isn't being cut, and that can really afford you with some flexibility. It's pretty obvious that this is kind of a base race scenario, but the base race is heavily in Fatal's favor because the Thors and the Banshees are going to be able to do so much damage, whereas all Quantic Hawk has is about 6 roaches and a handful of Corruptors, which were too cowardly to actually do a straight up fight. Hawk is going to bow out pretty quickly. I hope that this highlighted some of the key aspects of this build. There's plenty more to read about it. You can check it out. It was on teamliquid.net. It was posted under StimmedProbe's post-patch TVZ build number 3. Fast expand into 2-port Banshee. It's wicked awesome. Check it out. I am Ibigandscary. I will see you guys later. Bye.